Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, the Corvette is back. Now we have finished up the dyno, we worked on the SS for a bit, we worked on the truck for a little bit, and now we're finally back on the Corvette project. But today's project is actually going to be related to a video that we did a while back when we did a parts run, and I said, you know, that some of these projects we were going to take a while to get to. The first project was the glass roof that you guys can see that's installed. And the second one was the major thing that we picked up, which was this RSD Roll Bar. And I finally have the time to actually get this thing installed into the car, and I'd really like it off my floor space just to clear up the shop a little bit more. So today what we're going to be doing is kind of dry fitting it, you know, getting the car torn apart enough to where we can get it set in. So you guys might be wondering, well, how did you end up with the RSD bar and not end up with any other options? I think Wolf Racecraft might make a bar that fits. RPM roll bars, they make a bar that fits. It's kind of the same bolt-in style. Then you could go crazy with a full, like, was it a funny car, and like a funny car cage. I think that's like I think they call that a 25.5 spec roll cage. You know, that's full race car. Well, I don't really intend to make this car ever a race car like that. I'm kind of just trying to add some safety improvements to where we could go a little bit quicker than we are now and be NHRA compliant, and just add some safety to the car. So that choice right there kind of eliminates the full like custom roll cage, and it kind of puts us into the bolt-in roll cages. Now, I believe the bolt-in roll cages are good until like a 10.0, and I'm thinking 150 mile per hour, something like that. I think if you go faster than a 9.9, you need at least 8-point cage. So I think that would be the halo on top, you know, and connecting down to the floor pan instead of just the main bar with the door bars. So this is how we end up with the bolt and roll cage style, with your two main guys being RSD and RPM. Now we've covered all this in cost and whatnot. I'll have a link to that video up above for that. That way, if you guys are more interested in the total cost of everything, check out that video. But as I did mention in that previous video, you know, we got this roll bar for a very good cost, and we got a bunch of other parts with it too. So kind of with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started on the install. All right, guys, now I actually do not have a set of instructions for this roll cage install, so we're kind of be going by the hip, you know, on this whole install, but I think there's enough resources out there to where if you run into a problem, you can find out what you need to do and get started on the install. So what we need to do first is actually remove the carpet from the trunk, as well as the little hump behind the driver's seat, and that goes into the trunk. So as you guys will see, we have already removed the carpet from behind the seats, and to do that, you actually have to take out the rear speaker panels, and to do that, there's 4 clips. There's a clip here, there's a clip down there, and then there are 4 push pins. The push pins are on the bottom. There's one here, there's one here, and there's 2 up here and here, that connect to the roof panel. To get those push pins out, I've used various amount of tools. I used trim panel removal tools, I've used screwdrivers, I've used push panel poppers, you know, I've used that, you use this. And you're just gonna have to get those 4 push pins removed. The hardest one is actually the one that's in the door jamb. There's one right here. You guys can see that I have kind of the broken half still in the car, so I'm gonna have to replace that. And then, like I said, here are the rear panels that hold the speakers, and so here's 2 more. To give you a little bit more information about those rear speaker panels, if you do happen to snap one of the attachment points off, they're actually just held in with epoxy, so it's nothing too exotic. I did actually happen to snap one off on both the driver's side and the passenger side, but like I said, you can just epoxy these back on. It's not going to be a big ordeal. Another thing that you're going to need to do to remove these panels is actually remove the rear shocks for the hatch. So as you guys can see, there is an electrical connection down here. Unplug that. That's for the rear defrost on each side. So there's a hook there. There's going to be a hook over there back behind the carpet. And then there's going to be a retaining clip for the rear shock. Pop that off, and then simply pop that off. And what I did was, guys, I actually used my floor jack handle. Just left it pushed flat against the carpet. I put it under the hatch handle right here, and I held it up. So once you get that hatch gas strut off, you can actually pull the panel out and you'll be good to go. And also, if you happen to have a target top, you're gonna have to remove these panels. These simply just click in. So what you do is start with the front. It actually goes like that. So start pulling up front, start pulling out back, pull the middle, front, middle, back. You'll hear it kind of release a little bit, and then eventually it'll pop off. All right, so at this point, with the 2 panels removed, you'll be able to pull the front carpet up. This just pulls up like that. Then you'll also be able to pull the rear hatch carpet up, and basically like this. And you'll expose the trunk floor behind it. And basically what we're gonna be doing is setting the foot of the cage here, then drilling a hole through the floor panel into the pinch weld below this. It's somewhere down here, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, we have made major progress on the mock-up. As you can see, we actually have the cage over in the car. So I have to thank my better half for helping me slide that in. Honestly, guys, there's no way to get that cage in unless you have 2 people. So I didn't have to take the seats out or anything. Just had to get the carpet out of the way off the little fuel hump here and the trunk itself. Lift that up, pull that carpet forward, and that's kind of the whole point of this project. Now, you think we'd be ready to actually start the install. But what I actually need to do is I need to actually put the car up on the lift and remove both fender liners and both rear wheels, and then drop both fuel tanks down. I'm kind of basing this off of the RPM instructions because they actually do have an instruction sheet for theirs. Unfortunately, we don't have the one for the RSD. And basically, why you want to drop the fuel tanks is because you do not want to be drilling into your fuel hose, because there is a bulkhead fitting right here, like I said, going across. But your fuel tanks are down here too. So you're going to want to make sure that this is all clear before you start drilling into this fuel hump, like I was saying. All right, guys, you'll see that we have the whole kind of rear end of the car torn apart. We have the wheels off. We have the inner splash guard wheel liners off. And then over here we have the brake duct vents. And then over here, you guys will see that we have the gas tank straps, the bottom support plates. Those are off as well. And the reason we have all those parts off is because we want to make sure that we're not going to hit anything when we start drilling holes in the car. Yes, you will have to drill holes in the car for this install. There's only going to be like maybe 10 to 15 holes all together. There's not that many. And most of them will be through the fuel bulkhead, that crossbar that we talked about earlier. That's up here. And then also there will be some right here in this pinch weld. And as you guys can see, we actually have a battery cable running through here too. So we want to make sure that when we start drilling through this pinch weld right here, this is actually for the bottom of the back braces that come into the trunk. Those will line up right here. We want to make sure we don't hit things. And in my car specifically, we have that battery cable, from that battery relocation that we did a real long time ago. So, we're just going to want to move that out of the way, make sure we don't drill through that. And then the other big item is actually the gas tank itself. As you guys will see, this dropped down a solid inch, maybe 2 inches. And there's no way I could show you, but way up in the cavity of the car is that fuel tunnel, that fuel transfer tube tunnel that I was telling you about. Way up there, where with the tank at rest and the straps removed, when we drill through it, we will not end up A, hitting the gas tank, or B, hitting that fuel line going between the 2 tubes. Alright guys, we're back on the cage project, and as you guys can see, we have the interior torn a little bit more apart. Basically all I did was roll the carpet back and made sure that we had plenty of room to start drilling holes in the back. So by moving the carpet back, you can actually see that there's these lines that are kind of cast or marked into the floor pan, which is pretty cool. So that's actually part of the frame. There's also a line going right here. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but that is also part of the frame. And then if you go outside the line, that's actually where the pinch weld is. So our goal is to actually hit that pinch weld. So we're going to be going from that line about a 1/4 inch, between a 1/4 and 3/8 of an inch out from that line, and drilling a hole down, and that will start just some small pilot holes. Now it'll kind of officially start the install of the cage. So like I said, here's that line again, and we're going to want to be on the outside of that line for both the passenger side and the driver's side. Alright guys, so we're going to be drilling for about, a 1/4 inch, give or take, maybe like 3/8 of an inch away from the line. And they kind of put it right in the middle of the pinch weld. So let's let's go ahead and get this one drilled out, and we will finish the Alright guys, here's the driver's side. You might be able to see two small holes. There's one right here, and there's one right here. And those holes were right in that pinch weld. So that's what we were aiming for, and that's what we hit. So that's actually pretty cool. You know, unfortunately we don't have any instructions, so I hope that was the hardest part of this install. I mean, kind of getting the cage lined up in the middle. You know, I measured it out. It's about 48 inches between panel to panel. And then the cage itself is 43.5. So I split the cage in half and I marked it at, what is it? 21 3/4. I think that's right, something like that. So, you know, I measured 48 as 24 in the middle and 21 3/4, so that's the middle. Those are lined up pretty well. So now that we have all the holes done for the floor pan in the back and the trunk, what we need to do now is actually focus here on the fuel transfer tunnel. I think that's a good name for this. But basically what we're gonna do is be drilling holes through here and making sure that we get our bolts through here and our nuts on the other side. Now I do have the tank dropped on both sides. I'm actually gonna disconnect the fuel filler neck up here, and that might give us another inch or two on the driver's side. So with dropping down the tanks, you know, I'm not really worried about hitting that tube itself. That, like, I think it's like about 2 or 3 inch in diameter tube. I'm not worried about hitting that because that's out of the way. But there's some vent lines that are involved here, and those go from the top of the tank and they go into that tunnel. So yeah, that's kind of the next thing we need to be worried about. All right guys, you can probably see that we have finished drilling the holes on the passenger side. So the first thing that I did was I took the bolt, I put it in the bottom of the channel, because that's kind of where the wear marks are from the previous install. So I just put the bolt at the very bottom, mark the top of the bolt with the marker where that is, and then I kind of just centered in that middle of that hole. That will be where we need to drill. So here, 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 and here. We'll drill that out. And I also used a hole punch to center my drill bit. So, you know, use the little piece of metal, hammer that on each one of these, and we should be able to start drilling this. All right guys, it looks like I have destroyed the car, but actually I just have the roll cage sitting on the back of the seats and we're fine there. But did want to show you, we do have all the holes drilled for the roll bar. And the light you're seeing coming from underneath is actually from where the gas filler net goes through the frame. I stuck a flashlight down in there and it is shining back through all of the holes. Now all of that prep work of disconnecting the fuel filler neck up here, dropping the fuel tanks in the bottom, guys, we have not hit anything. We're 100% safe. We haven't destroyed anything. We're good. I guess they really do build a good amount of safety margin in these things, but just doing those 3 steps of dropping those fuel protector plates, those aluminum pieces of metal under the tank, dropping those, removing the splash guards, and then disconnecting this fuel filler neck right here, that gave us all the room in the world that we need. Now, for these back holes, I only have the fronts drilled. I do not have the back drilled. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think we're going to end up just taking a measurement of the bottom of the hole, transfer it to the other side here, and connect it that way. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a drill bit long enough through the hole at the correct angle to go flat, because the way I have the holes drilled, I've rounded out some of them. I pretty much just drilled into that fuel hump at, you know, at the angle that it is. So be prepared to take a drill bit or maybe even a Dremel with a carbide bit and oblong those holes a little bit, because your bolt trying to go that way instead of going straight in, that ain't gonna happen. So not a bigger deal, but just be something that you should be on the lookout for, and we'll do that next. All right guys, you'll see that we have 4 holes drilled in the back here, and over on the driver's side we also have 4 holes drilled over there. And I also finished off these holes by painting them with some black touch-up paint, so we shouldn't have any issues with corrosion or anything like that. And how I lined up these bolt holes was actually, I had the cage back over the hoop, and I ran a piece of tape from one end to the other, and I basically just lined up with what edge that I could. So if the hole was a little bit to the left, you know, I went to the left. If the hole was to the right, I went to the right. And that's basically how we got our 8 holes back in the firewall. And they match up pretty well with the holes on this side. So we should be good. Like I said, I've got touch-up paint drying on both sides. And what we're going to do is put the cage back in position. We'll let that dry and start putting down the hardware. All right, guys, so we've actually made a lot of good progress on the roll cage install. As you guys can see, we have a bunch of hardware sticking through the firewall fuel tunnel thing. And then we also have most of our bolts in on the floor pan. So we got the bolts in over there, bolts in over there. And over here in the front, basically all the hardware is drilled and gone through. And all we need to do is start tightening this stuff down. All right, now that we've got the main hoop in, we've pretty much only got 2 more projects for this section of the cage. And that is to cut the carpet and put it around the 2 kickdowns in the back. Then fold the front carpet up and cut the 2 slots, actually 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So cut those 4 slots. You'll also see that I've already gone ahead and cut the carpet for the kind of fuel tank transfer tunnel. I already did that. I kind of messed up over here in the back. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but it is behind the seat. Nothing to really worry about, but I do actually have a spare piece of carpet in case we want to retry that. All right, guys, as you can see, we have the carpet fully back installed, and here's one of the chunks of the carpet that we cut out. Basically how we did this was we cut a slice from the front of the carpet to the back, kind of cut out a half circle on each side, and we just got the carpet fitting as best we can. Now, I actually do have some of this carpet seam sealer tape. I have this isn't the kind that you have to heat up with like a big iron or anything. This is just kind of like once you take the white protective tape off, it's just a sticky substance. And I just put the seam right through the middle there, you know, piece of carpet, seam in the middle, and I ran that right through the middle. Put like 6 inches there, probably another 6 inches there, and that pretty much made the carpet lay flat. And I mean, you could tell there is a slot if you look at it from certain angles, but it's actually pretty good. So I'll have a link down in the description for some of this carpet seam tape, and I actually picked up one of these Craftsman utility knives for carpet. This is a carpet cutting knife, and I'll have a link for this too. All right, guys, we've actually moved ahead and already done the passenger side of the cage. And as you guys can see, the door bar is already installed, and we have the floor mounting plate all set up. So this passenger side is done. So we're actually going to be working on the driver's side today. It's not super complex on how to do this. You basically just got to strip the interior apart, take off the seat molding. There's some trim on the very front of the seat. You also need to remove basically the carpet stay that's going to be on the, below the door panel. Take that out. And the driver's side might be a little bit more complex because we have the kick panel. We'll have to remove that. It's where the dead pedal is where you rest your foot. We'll have to remove that. And basically what we got to do is strip everything out of the way, get the carpet up, and that way we have bare floor pan, and we can lay the cage down, mark our holes, drill it, and then get the store bar installed. So let's go ahead and get the car tore down, and we'll show you what we need to do. All right, guys, looks like we have a mess here, but it doesn't take too long. What you gotta do is pop off this carpet stay, like I said earlier. There's also another trim panel here you need to pop off. That's actually this piece right here. And basically start at the bottom, pull here, that'll pop up. As far as the carpet stay, make sure you guys use your trim removal tools and simply just kind of lift up on the edge and pop it, and pop it. And this will all come loose and you'll be able to get that panel out. The next thing you're going to need to do is actually remove the kick panel plate like I was telling you about earlier. There are two 10mm screws up here. There's one back behind the clutch pedal, and there's also one going this way toward the outside driver's edge of the car. So once you remove those two 10mm nuts, that panel will pull out, and this basically gets you to where we are now. And also, you also need to remove the emergency seat release door opener. And how you do that is there's two T30 screws right here. So as you guys can see, there's here and here. Simply, those are riv nutted into the frame of the car. So you're simply going to use your T30 socket. That's a T25, but it's actually a T30. Put it in there, unscrew it, take the bolts out, pull this loose, and this gives you a good chunk of what you're going to need to get the carpet loose. The next thing you're going to need to do is actually remove the seat panel trim, closeout trim right here. And how you do that is pull the pop pin right here, pull this out, and you should be good to go. So that pretty much catches you up to where we are. The next thing you're going to do, you'll see kind of the floor pan looks kind of sanded. Well, that's because there's actually a metal clip here that actually holds these two wires in. The base plate for the down bar actually sits there. So I used a big screwdriver, flat screwdriver hammer, and I knocked all the epoxy loose, and I was able to knock that wire holder off the frame. So I removed that. And then the reason why it looks like it's sanded is because this actually has some little nubs that are sticking up. They're kind of just molded into the pan. I took some 120 grit sandpaper and paint stick. It's actually right there. I sanded the floor just for like 30 seconds in the front and back, you know, by hand. And then that will make the floor completely smooth, and you're ready to install your down bar base plate on the floor pan. So that's actually kind of a lot of work for this base plate. Well, basically, like I was saying, this is completely flat on the bottom. So you're gonna have to remove that little hump that I was telling you about just by sanding it real lightly. Put this down, and this will give you a completely flat spot for your base bar to lay. All right, guys, we have the door bar mocked in place, as you guys can see. Make sure when you're mocking your door bar in place that you take account for room for the door handle. It is very close right here. Probably want to leave about 1/8 of an inch between the down bar and the door handle panel right here. So you guys might be able to see that. I don't know, I'll try to lift the carpet out of the way, but I've gone ahead and filled out all of these slots, that way I know where to drill. And now we can go ahead and get ready to drill. Basically all we're gonna be using is our Milwaukee drill bit with a step bit on it, unibit, whatever you want to call it. And that should be all we need. So let's go ahead and get started drilling on the car. All right, guys, well, if you ever wanted to see what a Corvette floor pan looked like, you guys can see there is wood in the floor pan. So that's basically kind of a layer of plastic, then the wood, then another layer of plastic on the outside. And as you guys can see, we have our 4 holes drilled, so that's going to be for the base plate. All right, guys, so we just actually finished the door bar install. The front is all bolted down. Then you pull the pin and open the door. Now you can get in the car, and when you get situated, get the door back in, bar, put your pin in, and you're good to go. All right, guys, the install is complete on the driver's side. We have the trim installed. We've got that little piece right there. We've got the kick panel way down there installed, and we also cut the carpet around the cage. So I'll try to show you. There you go. So we cut the carpet, and we also put all the trim back on the seat, back in place. And then basically just vacuumed everything to make it look good. All right, guys, so that's gonna be it for the RSD roll bar, roll cage, whatever you want to call it, for the Corvette. But we finished it up and went for a test drive. And the reason I went for a test drive is because the owner, who I bought the cage from, he said that, you know, he noticed his car tighten up a lot more with just installing the cage over tightening everything up. I want to say that's kind of true. So if I actually had the FOT Racing front sway bar in, I may have noticed it even better, but it did feel pretty tight and pretty secure, you know, going around corners not far from the neighborhood. So like I said, that's pretty much it for the Corvette cage install. There is one last thing I need to do. I actually need to swap the kind of behind the driver's and passenger seat tunnel, that break, you know, basically the piece of carpet goes behind the seat and over into the trunk. That piece, I forget what that's called, the fuel transfer tunnel carpet, whatever that's called. I actually have a new one, and because like I said, I screwed up the carpet that came with the car. I already have a replacement piece. I'll cut that, you know, now that I know what I need to cut. we'll cut that, fix that up, and install that. But we're actually going to do that on a later date because we've got a ton of stuff left on this car. So if you guys want to see those upcoming Corvette projects, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you like the video, hit that like button. And if you guys want to subscribe, please do. If you guys want to help support the channel, click all the links down below. I'll try to have links to the tools that we use, some of the hardware that we use, and all that stuff. And we should be good to go there. I will not have a link for the roll cage because, like I said, I bought that second hand, but you know, that's just how it is. And also, don't forget to check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.